Are the Knicks here to stay? After an awesome season, one that was filled with tons of success and even a pretty decent playoff run, can this new look Knicks team run it back and be sustainable playoff participants? They have their nucleus established, they've made the right type of tweaks this summer, and now it's just about going out and doing it again. How good can this Knicks team really be? Let's find out. But first, be sure to like and subscribe to our channel for more NBA content. The season is almost here, and we have tons of great NBA videos coming your way to get you prepped for what should be an awesome season. So look, there's a lot up in the air right now in the Eastern Conference. With Damian Lillard traded to the Bucks and Jrue Holiday on the market, there is some shifting that's going on in the East. Milwaukee got better, and any reported Eastern Conference contender interested in Holiday could get better, including the Knicks, who may be interested in the two-way guard themselves. That being said, for the most part, the Knicks seem like they are the most stable Eastern Conference playoff contender, the one that has the most continuity going into this season with no league-changing additions, and that's gotta feel weird, right? The Knicks are stable, good where they are for the first time in a while, and ultimately, that's a huge selling point if they ever do choose to go star hunting for the Embiids and Giannis's of the world, although Giannis is probably staying put in Milwaukee for a while now. Don't get me wrong, the Knicks weren't stagnant this offseason. They re-signed their acquisition from last year's trade deadline, Josh Hart, to a 4-year, $81 million deal last month after he had a huge second half of the season and playoff run with the Knicks. Hart was an all-around utility knife for New York. He provided some much-needed depth at the wing spots for them, and he was an elite connector on offense, gluing together actions between Jalen Brunson, Julius Randle, and RJ Barrett. He's an excellent rebounder for his position, and he showed that off in the Knicks' dominant first-round series win against the Cavaliers. The big thing with Hart and the Knicks is ultimately going to be shooting. He's had moments in his career where he was a consistent, even at times high-volume three-point shooter, but there have been some drastic swings. Just last year, while in Portland, he shot 30% on 2 attempts from behind the arc. Once he got to New York, he shot 51% on 2 attempts. Admittedly, with Hart, it's more about just attempting them. Far too many times, he's passive on calling his own number, instead opting to make plays for others. And while he's talented in that regard, he needs to keep defenses honest, particularly with his shooting. And efficient three-point shooting was a problem for the Knicks all of last year. They ranked 7th in attempts last season, but 20th in efficiency from 3, which means they were taking them, but admittedly weren't hitting a lot of them. They had 2 players who shot better than 35% from 3 last season, Quentin Grimes, who knocked down 38% of his threes on over 5 attempts a game, and of course, Brunson, who hit on nearly 42% of his threes last year. But they still needed more, and ultimately, their biggest addition this summer tried to address that. They used their MLE to sign Dante DiVincenzo to a 4-year, $50 million deal. DiVincenzo had a bounce-back year in Golden State after battling through injuries in Milwaukee and Sacramento. And most importantly, he shot the leather off of the ball, knocking down 40% of his threes on 5 attempts a game in a Dubs uniform. The bonus is that the Knicks won't lose out defensively by throwing DiVincenzo into lineups, because he's a mobile guard with great screen navigation abilities that can defend at the point of attack. With him, Hart, Grimes, and Emmanuel Quickley, they have a really good nucleus of perimeter defenders. They also have Mitchell Robinson as their backline of defense, and defensive specialist Tom Thibodeau patrolling the sidelines. So they will be one hard team to score against this season. Now, the Knicks ranked 19th in defensive rating last season. It was actually their offense, led by Brunson and Randle, 2 ISO kings, that was dominant. But they clearly have the defensive group to be better than they were last season. It starts with their 3 main guys in Brunson, Randle, and Barrett. The Knicks gave up 7.4 more points per 100 possessions with Barrett on the floor, 7 points per 100 possessions with Brunson on the floor, and 5.6 points per 100 possessions with Randle on the floor. The Knicks starters, including Grimes, gave up over 117 points per 100 possessions in over 500 minutes together last season. Swap Barrett out for Quickley, and that dropped to 101 points per 100 possessions. It is a significant improvement. Still, by adding DiVincenzo and now having a full season of Hart, the Knicks can put out more unique defensive lineups, and I think ultimately they'll be much better on that end. The real factor for the Knicks, and potentially where they'll look for the most improvement, is internally. Quickley is headed into an all-important year. He's looking for a big contract, and ultimately he showed flashes last season that made it reasonable for him to want one. He became an elite two-way guard off of the bench, especially defensively, where he was potent at the point of attack. He finished second in Sixth Man of the Year voting, and it was because of that defense that he brought off of the bench for New York and the steady hand he provided offensively. Ultimately, the Knicks are going to ask him to play an even bigger role for them this season, and there's a chance he takes a leap this year. The same thing applies to Grimes, who has become a potent 3-and-D guy for the Knicks in only 2 seasons. Grimes can shoot the ball at a high volume. He's great at navigating around screens and defending, and depending on who starts between him and Dante, the Knicks have plug-and-play guys that fit really well next to their core. Both Quickly and Grimes are well on their way to becoming, at the very least, useful role players for New York, and they both have breakout potential too. But still, it seems like everyone has been patiently waiting on the breakout potential of Barrett. RJ is a potent scorer for the Knicks. He's been a near 20-point per game guy for them in 3 of his 4 seasons in the league, but he still leaves a lot to be desired. He is an inconsistent shooter from behind the arc. He has a great knack for using his size to get to the rim, but isn't an elite finisher there by any means. He's more ground bound than you'd like for someone who's seemingly a good athlete with size, and ultimately, despite being a big body, he struggles to be consistent on the defensive end. If you ask one Knicks fan, they'll tell you they believe the leap is still coming for RJ. I mean, Randall didn't break out until his 7th year in the league. Neither did Lauri Markkanen, the MIP from last year. But if you ask other Knicks fans, RJ probably is what he is at this point. A 3-and-D wing who can't do either very consistently. Part of that is play design and finding ways to get him in more successful actions, especially offensively. We saw as much when he played for Team Canada this summer at the FIBA World Cup. There were moments where he looked incredible, finding his slots on offense, attacking in transition, and being another big body defender. But then there were moments where he rushed into shots, lacked poise, and made far too many mistakes on defense. With RJ, it's just about if he'll ever put it together consistently. He looked good in their 2023 playoff run, and hopefully that's a positive sign of growth. But ultimately, it's those 3 guys, Quickly, Grimes, and Barrett, who can elevate the ceiling of this team as it's currently constructed around Randall and Brunson. The other question is what improvements Randall and Brunson themselves will make in their games. While both have shown to be all-star and all-NBA caliber players, there's still areas they can improve and fine-tune. Especially Randall, who's probably a rather controversial player for Knicks fans. He took more threes than he ever did last season, chucking over 8 a game and knocking down less than 35% of them. He still needs to improve as a playmaker and decision maker, and that was one of the bigger reasons they lost to the Miami Heat in round 2. Defensively, he's not attentive off of the ball despite holding his ground in the post because of his sheer size. Brunson, for his part, is the Knicks' steady hand, and I'd argue that it was actually him, not Randall, that deserved all of the accolades for their success last season. But there are areas Brunson needs to get better at too, primarily in the playmaking and passing department. Brunson is a score-first ISO guard, and while he can use that to open up opportunities for his teammates, he needs to be a tad bit more willing to pass the rock in order to create a flow in their offense. But ultimately, a lot of that has to do with the offensive structure Tibbs sets up. The Knicks ran a lot of ISO ball thanks to Randall and Brunson, and while they were successful, clearly, I do wonder if long-term it'd be better to run more actions to get the ball moving more often. That being said, the Knicks are projected at 45.5 wins this season, and I think I'm comfortable with them going over. They won 47 games last year. They went 18-8 with Hart inserted into the lineup to finish the year. They've added DiVincenzo into the mix that should help them on defense and shooting, and if they get any sort of internal development from Grimes, Quickly, or Barrett, they could very easily be a 50-win team this year. Above all else, the Knicks are sustainable. You know what you're going to get out of them every season with Brunson at the helm, a consistent playoff contender. Now, this team, as currently constructed, definitely isn't in the same conversation as Boston or Milwaukee, but I think they have the tools to put the fear of God in either of those teams in the playoffs. And ultimately, with it being New York and the assets they have, it's great that they're staying patient and waiting for the next big star to come along so that they can pounce on that opportunity and make the most of it. It has got to be good to be a Knicks fan right now. But let us know what you think. Are you satisfied as a Knicks fan? Tell us in the comments, and as always, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. See you later.